Hi, everyone. Hashtag CDC whistleblower and hashtag B1 less letter B number one LESS, which is all we really want. We want there to be one less parent, person, child who does something in the world of vaccines that they later realize if they had done a little bit of research, they might have done it slightly differently. That's all we want. So let's start with, I'm here with Timothy Welsh from @TannersDad on Twitter, where, as you all know, we reached 1 billion back in the middle of February, and the reach just keeps growing. So our goal continues to be having people understand that there's no such thing as anti-vax. Who in their right mind would be anti-safe vax? And I think that's one of the first things that people need to memorize is how they answer that question. Are you anti-vax? Of course I'm not anti-safe vax. That needs to be like a knee-jerk. Practice with me, Tim. Tim, are you anti-vax?
Of course I'm not anti-safe vax.
And you just have to put the stress on the safe. So it's, of course I'm not anti-safe vax, but that's the question. That's the question we're trying to answer. And when it comes to that important of a question, I want to do my own research. I don't want to trust anyone. I don't want my doctor to tell me. I don't want my priest to tell me. I don't want my mother to tell me. I want to see the research. So let's do that one more time. Tim, are you anti-vax?
See, I got stuck.
So you just have to remember it. You asked me some tough. We've been talking about doing this forever, and I'm getting ready to present at a group tomorrow, kind of last minute, in a debate forum, meaning half the people are going to be very, very rabidly pro-vax. So, Tim, why don't you practice with me? Why don't you ask me the hardest questions and see how I do?
Are you anti-vax?
Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine, Tim. That would be ludicrous. There is nobody on the planet that is anti-safe vaccine. Nobody. So we're all on the same team here. The only question is, what type of research am I going to be allowed to do, me personally, to determine for myself which vaccines are safe, under what circumstances, in what environment, and more important than anything else, those people that got hurt that the $3 billion were paid to, tinyurl.com/3 billion paid, who are those people and why did it happen to them? And do I not have the right to try to figure out if I think I know why that happened to them? I mean, were they like Jennifer's son or daughter on the first day of life within 5 hours of being born as a 1 pound, 3 ounce preemie getting the Hep B? Is that, I can get myself out of that group. I'm not a preemie. Was I over the age of 65? Did I take time? I mean, surely there's some data we can figure out to determine when these vaccines are safe and when they're not safe. And I'd like to increase the odds that if I choose to take a vaccine, it's safe and effective, and they don't come back a year later and say, oops, you weren't supposed to take it on a full moon. Now you need to do it again. The whooping cough is up to 5 vaccines now because they know that it's ineffective and that it promotes parapertussis instead of pertussis, but they can't admit that, so they just keep adding more vaccines to the schedule. I mean, it's just this slippery slope of information once you really...
The flu shot is recommended. It's going to cover you against a couple other strains if you, even though it didn't match the one strain. Why don't you get the flu shot?
You don't know whether or not I did the flu shot, and these debates should never, ever, ever be about someone's personal choice. Someone's personal choice should always be that which they own forever as their own. We have HIPAA laws that are specifically designed so that people can maintain anonymity about their medical history, and yet it comes to vaccines and people want to write on their chest, like Typhoid Mary, who should be able to go to the grocery store and not. So my personal choice is none of your business, Tim, but I will tell you this much about the research that I did on the flu shot. When you look at this year's version of the flu shot, they labeled it as 23% effective. And how they defined effective was it reduced the number of hospital visits for those that got that were labeled with the flu by 23% without ever testing for any strains of flu. The flu has the most number of adverse events associated with it out of all the other vaccines combined. The flu has the most adverse events associated with it, and it's a shot that at best they're saying could potentially provide you with 1 year of relief from something that we've had since the beginning of time, that no one has ever researched whether or not there might actually be a benefit to your body from actually getting sick and slowing down and having a fever. I mean, it's ludicrous, the data points that we don't have access to. Next question,
all the people that I trust, Dr. Besser on ABC and the president and all the politicians are introducing 50 bills to mandate vaccines. Don't they know what they're talking about?
I'm not going to speak to what they do or don't know about, because I couldn't possibly climb in their heads like I wouldn't want you to climb in my head. Let's just speak to the mandate, completely separate from whatever, millions of dollars may have possibly played a role in them determining that it's a mandate. Number one, we have never tested vaccinated against unvaccinated kids. And we know that they get sick to the tune of $3 billion. So what that's tantamount to is medical testing. The second it's medical testing, we have laws against all of these things. We have the Nuremberg Code. We have an entire page at NIH, and we have the doctors who would be administering these doctors, where the entire vaccine compensation court is predicated on the concept of informed consent, meaning the doctor needs to inform you of the risk to benefits to the best of their knowledge, and then you need to consent. Without the foundation of informed consent, the National Vaccine Compensation Program is no longer valid. So the whole thing is not within the confines of the law. So I don't know what their data points are, but I know this. How in the world will you ever think you're going to be able to protect yourself and your family if the government believes they can force inject you? Even if you think you're safe and cozy with the government the way it is right now, which half of the population is not comfortable and doesn't trust the government and doesn't trust the CDC and doesn't trust these organizations already, and yet we want to have mandates that give them permission to force vaccinate you and your family. Fast forward 10 years from now. Do you think when all of these other world events where millions of people died at the hands of their rulers, they saw it coming? I'm not saying that that's what this mandate is. I think these people who are wanting to instill these vaccine mandates think that they have our best interests at heart. I really believe they think that, but I also really believe that they have simply not done the research. They're trusting someone who's trusting someone who, at the end of the day, in the
wait a minute, right there. I mean, I have 3 data points in my mind. I watch TV. They don't talk about the CDC whistleblower thing you talk about. There's Snopes that came out and said that it was kind of a conspiracy theory thing and off the mark. And then Dr. Alford said that this Dr. Thompson has some mental issues. So, I mean, those are 3 trusted sources, aren't they?
Well, people need to determine what they trust. And here's what I'm going to tell you that I trusted when I spoke directly with the doctor that the CDC whistleblower spoke to. there's 3 recordings of that interview where he tries to give everyone everything associated with the hashtag CDC whistleblower and William Thompson and his personal experience with him, and they're available at tinyurl.com/Brian Hooker 1, the numeral 1, /Brian Hooker, the numeral 2, and Brian Hooker 3. So, again, I don't care about the CDC whistleblower. I hate to break it to you, Tim, but I don't care about the CDC whistleblower. I don't care about the CDC. I don't care about these politicians. I don't care about any of this shit. All I care about is having the right to choose what to do with my family and the ability to research and find the studies that help guide me in my journey. That's all I want, and that's all the Oregonian senator wanted, who has MS, who is on interferon, whose neurologist told her to not breastfeed while she was on the drug, but instead went to get advice from an expert in the field and made the choice for herself and her daughter, because she feared that her daughter would have autoimmune diseases, to go ahead and breastfeed because she felt confident from her access to an expert that it was not going to hurt her daughter. That's available at tinyurl.com/Oregon Hypocrisy. You have to listen to her because in her heart, she's pro-medical choice. But she got caught up in this insanity of believing that for some reason when it comes to vaccines, it's different. Vaccines are supposed to have a 99% protection rate for the measles virus if you get the MMR 3 times. Not only is it supposed to have a 99% protection rate, but you are able to test your titers. You can check your titers and see if you're immune. The third option is there are immunoglobulins that you can get in real time, which is what happened with that child with leukemia. You can get immunoglobulins for measles if you think that you've been exposed to measles and you're immunocompromised. So there is a fail-safe for these people who feel like they have tiny babies and other people that are immunocompromised that don't want to do the vaccine but want to have options around it. It is lunacy to think that the best plan is to force vaccinate those in America who do not want to vaccinate, especially when the statistics are clear that the measles virus, they say, is no longer endemic in the population in the United States, meaning we don't have spontaneous measles eruptions anymore, from latent to full-blown measles to infecting others. What we have 93% of the time is imported measles, meaning what happened in Disneyland, it was a man over the age of 33. This is what I've read from CDC reports that they think came from the Philippines, that had the gene markings for the measles that they found in the people that this person they think infected was from the strain that's going around the Philippines, and they have, I think, over 50,000 cases of measles in the Philippines. The Philippines is still very much around the world. We just don't have as much of it in the United States because we're well-nourished, fairly well-nourished. And the measles virus sheds. People need to get over this idea that viruses don't have the capacity to infect others when they're in the form of a live virus. It's called a live virus because that is what it is. It's a live virus vaccine. Have they done a bunch of different crap to try to make it not take off in the host? Yes, they have.
This is my last question.
Okay. Cut me off anytime.
You say, I mean, you don't care about the CDC whistleblower. Well, most of my friends don't care about this mandate thing. Most of them are going to follow the schedule blindly, and if a mandate goes through, they think, oh, vaccine rates are about 85 to 90% now, so maybe
but they're not. They're not.
Well, that's what we're told. We're told that they're 85 to 90% now, and that the mandate's going to add 1 or 2% because the rest are medical or religious or exemption. So what should my friends be getting interested in, or even why would they come to the table when they have older kids, and right now they don't mandate anything for adults. So,
Well, okay, so let's pause right there. For one, the rates have been stable. In the state of California, you can go to tinyurl.com/MMR rates stable, and you will see that between 2000 and 2013, our MMR rates for the age group that they studied, which is incoming kindergartners, because that's the benchmark, has remained above 95% that entire time and never dipped below it. These outbreaks, quote unquote, have nothing to do with the unvaccinated and everything to do with these imported cases and everything to do with the vaccine itself failing.
So what are they going to accomplish with
the
mandate?
Tim, let me answer the question. And I did that specifically to you because we have to be a little aggressive and assertive is a better word, in these interviews. We can't let the interviewer steal back when they think we're going in a direction they don't want to hear. So here's what they need to do. But first of all, they need to want to do it. You need to understand that this is all just testing the waters, because the big government concept is that vaccines make for a safer populace. The more we vaccinate, the healthier we are, because they do not track the fact that half of the people in the United States are sick, and we have never tested anything that would associate long-term outcomes. So here's how this is already going down. We already have health workers that are being required to vaccinate. We have all senior sitters requiring to vaccinate. We have now added mandates that used to end at the age of 3 for children that are now not just ending through the end of high school, but are carrying on to college. The university system in the state of California has now mandated 6 vaccines for all incoming freshmen as of 2017. The next group that's going to go is going to be the teachers, because they're going to say, why would these kids have to be vaccinated only to be exposed by their teachers? They're just going to keep, and here's the other thing you need to understand. If that's their mindset, then as long as the Affordable Care Act is in place, which it has no signs of going anywhere, we are mandated to have health insurance. We're mandated to vaccines. You marry the two, and it will just slow creep to where you can no longer access health insurance that's required by law without being up to date on your recommended vaccines that are recommended at the federal level. So if you're some single person thinking this is going to not be your problem, I never in a million years, I have teenagers, I never in a million years thought this was going to be my problem. And I had to have a conversation with my ridiculously bright daughter, who is probably going to have to choose where she goes to college based on what the vaccine restrictions are. This is crazy, Tim. This is 50 different mandate bills that all came together between June 6th and February 5th. January 15th and February 6th. This is orchestrated. This is not some, whimsical, let's do this. What in the world motivated the state of California to go from AB 2109 that they just passed in 2012 that required that all personal exemptions sit down with their doctor to be educated so that they could have their doctor sign off on their personal exemption? What in the world would motivate going from that to taking away all religious and all personal exemptions without exception in the state of California? And it's insane. We are being railroaded, and the libertarian, like I'm going to this meeting in San Diego where there's 2 libertarians that are going to debate pro-vaccine mandate. What the fuck? Seriously? How can you project? And okay, so libertarians, it makes no sense that you could ever be pro-mandate on vaccines. It's just completely inconsistent with all of the basic tenets of libertarianism. It's just insane. Now let's go to the liberal side. How in the world does a pro-choice woman, and 90% of all Democrats and liberals are pro-choice for abortion, suddenly say you don't own your body? how do they think they're going to protect pro-choice if they've let the concept of mandating vaccines, you don't own your body, slip into the infrastructure? It's completely insane that they would allow that to happen. Next question, Tim, or are we done? Okay, wait, Tim, I have a question for you. So, Tim, are you anti-vaccine?
Of course I'm not safe vaccine.
Tim, we're going to rehearse this until you're done. Tim, are you anti-vaccine?
Of course I'm not safe. Well, to say that, see, I'll never get it.
Yes,
I can say it in conversation. Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine. See, you put that together. Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine.
And the emphasis has to be on safe, because the message in that sentence is safe. Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine. And you use your hands for the word safe.
Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine.
Yay!
That'd be crazy.
Exactly. But the question right now isn't the vaccine safety. The question in early 2000 vaccine has nothing to do with safety and everything to do with whether or not you'll be able to make a choice if you do the research and you determine that something other than what the federal government is mandating would be safe for your child.
I like when you do the research.
When you do the research.
Because I mean, you have to do the research at this point in time. I mean, who is the responsible parent that wouldn't do a research? Again, we go back to no cigarettes, no beer, nothing, caffeine when you're pregnant. But then the minute the baby's born, you go zap, 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 and you don't even know what. Most mothers that I've asked can't tell me what those 6 shots or 8 shots or 10 shots that they give the baby right off the bat.
Well, but I think they've been lulled to sleep, and again, it's all this concept of trust what you're told, do as you say, trust what you're told, do as you say. You know what I mean? And I think this, and I'm 50-something. I don't know, you're something like that. It's our fault in a lot of ways, Tim, because we were lulled to sleep during a time in American history where you didn't necessarily have to feel that politically involved because it was all kind of the same stuff. It was all going to come out in the wash. It didn't really impact you. We weren't going to war, so that.
How sick does somebody have to be to give an injection to a perfectly healthy child, and then the child dies within 12 hours, and then not draw that connection? I mean, how sick is that whole scenario?
Well, like this one right here, the things that have changed, and here's what's happening is they're changing very, very slowly the advice that they're giving to try to reduce some of these negative responses, but they're not doing it in a proactive way. But one of the things I notice on the CDC side is now it's saying skip shots and wait until well. They, of course, don't coin it like that. You have to dig in each separate shot. You have to go to the Hep B shot. It says, oh, don't give if they're sick. Well, how do you decide if a kid, you don't think a 1.3-pound baby on her first day of life that's intubated and blinded from light and on a blood pressure cuff and being fed through her nose wouldn't skip that vaccine for that criteria, let alone because it's just the craziest thing you've ever heard of in your life? But here's what people need to understand too. We are vaccinating American children on the first day of life. How in the world will you ever figure out whether or not vaccines have anything to do with the half of our kids that are sick? When it's 60%? When it's 70%? I mean, we're making it so that who in the world is going to, and here's one. You want to mandate a product that's so bad you have to force it to cover its failure? That's all the mandate is trying to cover its anticipated failure without admitting the failure. They don't want to admit that 90+% of all the people over the age of 20 have 0 titers or defense against the measles. They don't want to admit that. And they don't want to admit that 93% of all new cases and quote unquote outbreaks of vaccines in America are coming from people who have traveled abroad to these endemic areas.
But I trust pasty white old people.
Well, you're just stupid then, Tim. You're just
let's wrap this one with the loop.
Okay.
And,
Where do I?
and the screenshot.
Okay, so help me find it here. We'll go to. Is that okay? Okay? So this is just something that Tim discovered this morning. You want to see what it is?
Well, back before we were scared about Ebola, mumps, flu shot,
measles,
and measles, we were scared about one of the first epidemics that were going to kill us all was the H1N1 flu, which was turned out to be one of the most minor flus that has been around. They had a discussion then about who should get vaccinated when, and the president actually came out and said his daughters weren't vaccinated, and the president and the first lady and the family would be back down the line to get that when he was told to get that. So he would be at the back of it, behind the older immunocompromised people, the babies, then the children, then maybe the adults.
I'm trying to find this, but I'm not finding the loop now. Hang on, let me. But here's the other thing that was disturbing about what he said was one of the first sets of people should be the neurologically challenged kids. Did you hear him say that? I was like, what? What? It's just the whole thing is insane. They're bumping up against their own propaganda when I can't seem to get any.
It should be the Instagram right before. It should be like one tweet right before that screenshot. That's not a TSU.
Can you see this at all?
I can't see that, what you have on the screen.
But it won't play it. It's asking me to join Sue.
No, that's not. You don't want to go to that one. Too far down. You should be like the tweet right before that one you just clicked on.
But it's not giving it as an option to play it. I played it before. Well, bottom line, the president just said he's going to be at the back of the line, and I think he was trying to say that so that all the people who needed it more than him could have the privilege of, like, I know how I want to end this. I'm going to FunVax. We're going to go to tinyurl.com/FunVax. So let's take this forward 5 years. They've mandated vaccines, and they slowly but surely add more and more adults to where they have a universal vaccine mandate to where they can come door to door and vaccinate you for some, pandemic that they're saying. I just want you to watch this quickly so you can feel all warm and cozy what could be in a vaccine.
Individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression.
It's not loud enough.
It's not loud enough? I can't turn it up anymore. Can you hear it at all?
Barely.
Okay, bottom line is this is, I'm going to play a teeny bit more after I explain it. This is a Pentagon briefing where the scientist is demonstrating that they have been able to isolate a virus that they can put in a vaccine that will change your brain so that if you are a religious fundamentalist, I'm going to also call that passionate, you will no longer be a religious fundamentalist. I'm going to call that passionate. So it's basically a way of putting a virus in a vaccine without anybody knowing it that could downplay the part of your brain that would basically be passionate enough to care what's in the vaccine. That should scare people. Hang on, let me play and see.
Over here, we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalists, not fanatically religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach. What
No, we can't hear that at all.
Okay, what he said is, wait, what you're saying here is by spreading this virus, you would eliminate the personalities of people that would go off and detonate a bomb, for example. Can you speak really quickly to the tetanus one that was going on? Because that is, you can put anything in a vaccine. In Africa, we have 31 Kenyan Catholic priests who are coming forward to the Kenyan government to say they should no longer be doing the series of 5 tetanus shots because they are sterilizing the women against their will. And that's easy. You can Google. I don't know. Do you know which tiny URL that is, by any chance?
No, I haven't pursued that one.
But you've seen that. That one's
I've seen it. Yeah, that is a discussion going on at the moment, and my focus is pretty much Homeland Security. So.
Well, but
and I should broaden my horizon. Yes, I should look and say I advocate against the additives that they export to Africa when they say it's not safe for the United States, but they add other things into what they send to Africa. That's.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to speak to Americans that they should suddenly spontaneously combust with interest in those outside our borders. That's crazy to think that might happen. Sorry to say that, but it feels like that most of the time. What I'm saying is this is a entrenched technology that they look at vaccines as a way to manipulate behavior and health, and it's just, I mean, that should scare people a lot.
The eugenic discussion has gone on for years and years and years. The bottom line to everything that we say is the fact that the number we see right now that the government gives us is 54% of our children are chronically ill. And even if you take out the obesity portion that people question us on whether that's an illness, you're still looking 40%, 43% plus. So bottom line is, what is your number that is going to wake you up to the fact that we don't have healthy children anymore?
And even if you think you're not going to have kids, you think you're not going to pay for this? Are you kidding me? If nothing else, you're sitting in your Burke Lounger at 45 drinking your beer going, holy shit, how am I going to be able to afford groceries if this keeps up and we keep having to pay for all these really, truly sick kids? Okay, let's end on Watch.
Well, and I just want to thank everybody for getting this far through this video, because I know when we get to these 50-minute videos that we lose a lot of our audience.
I know, but
I appreciate the 3 people that are listening to this.
You think there's 3? That's pretty ambitious of you. Okay, so for the 2 people that got to this level.
Thank you, Candace and Marcella.
Yes, thank you, Candace and Marcella, and my mom maybe now. Yeah. So Tim, here's the question. Tim, are you anti-vax?
Of course I'm not anti-safe vaccine. That'd be crazy.
Okay.
What we really need to be discussing is how do we make the vaccine safer and less intrusive on our rights and personal liberties. We're losing out in the way that things are trending, with 50 mandates just being written, we believe, by the pharmaceutical industry, all of a sudden just appearing overnight in such well-written, coordinated function, and every single talking head on TV coming up, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, with no studies, with no meat, with nothing to give a parent to go do the work. There's nothing there. Where when you go to b1less.com, we list all the tiny URLs that you can click at your leisure and do the research yourself. It's not a couple parents just saying something here. This is study after study. This is a billion conversations. This is whistleblowers. There's so many reasons to question that have never been mentioned. Every time your doctor brings up anything that is just kind of 14 or 17 years old, ask him what is about the thing that's happening today. The CDC whistleblower, Dr. Thompson, a CDC scientist that works there, how come he doesn't mention that? How come he doesn't mention Dr. Thorson? How come he doesn't mention U.S. versus Merck? All of those things are listed and documented in reproducible, reportable links on b1less.com.
And it's the letter B, the number 1, LESS, and it's Tina Links, and we will see you on Twitter. Thanks. Anything, Tim?
Praying for you all.
Okay, bye.